Hi and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. And we're so grateful that you joined our community today because Jim and I have declared this as Asparagus Week. Our garden is producing asparagus right now, not as much as we would like because I think the gophers got some over the winter time. But look at all this asparagus Jim found for me. So we are going to do 3 different videos on asparagus, and this will be the first one. We want to thank you for joining our community where we focus on food security, on self-reliance, and on emergency preparedness. Today's video goes to food security and ways to preserve food, especially asparagus since it's Asparagus Week. So we'll get started in just a moment. For this video, we are going to do freeze drying versus dehydrating with asparagus, and then we're going to see how well each one rehydrates, and then we'll talk about some of the ways that we can use it. And for our third video, we're actually going to show ways that we're going to use this preserved asparagus that we're doing. So first of all, I'm going to start in on this end, and I'm just going to cut off these tough ends. Now, I don't cut them up. Some people say, oh, all you need to do is just snap it, and it will basically snap where it is. So this is tough and this is tender, but you know, this is plenty tender for me, so I'm not going to do that. Look at all the waste, and so we're not going to do that. Once I've trimmed off the bottoms, now I'm going to stack these in this steamer so that I can steam these for 3 minutes. To stop the enzyme action. And we want to do that because we don't want any more ripening or spoilage or anything else. So these are so lovely because they're all about the same size and same width. I'm stacking these upright, and I think the steam is going to do just a fine job of blanching. These are all blanched and cooled down. You can see I have loaded 3 trays from our freeze dryer. I am saving the 4th tray for something special that I'm going to do, but I'm not going to tell you about it right now. We'll learn more about that toward the end of the video. I'm loading up the dehydrator trays, and the reason that I'm leaving these spears long like this is I haven't quite decided for sure what I'm going to be doing with all of this, and so I want the versatility of having them long so that if I then want to cut them in short pieces, I can do that. But once they're cut in shorter pieces, you can't make them long again. So you can do this any way you want to. You can cut them in shorter pieces, you can leave them long, you can cut them in half, whatever works for you. I am going to finish filling these trays, and then we will come back. I just finished, these are the last 2 trays. The other 4 trays are in the dehydrator already. I'm about to turn it on. But please remember how beautiful emerald green both of these are. The ones going into the freezer, the ones going into the dehydrator. Now these trays plus what I'm going to put on this one will go into our regular freezer overnight to freeze solid, and then first thing in the morning they will go into the freeze dryer. And then we will come back when both sets are done and start doing our rehydration to kind of compare how those look and talk about how we can use them. So we will see you in a couple of days. We are back. It's been 2 days and the asparagus is finished. And this is what the dehydrated asparagus looks like. And I have it set out right here on this little tray. And this is what the freeze-dried asparagus looks like. So with all that asparagus, we got 2 of this size of a jar of the freeze-dried. And what you see right here is the total amount of the dehydrated. Now, with our second Asparagus Week video, which is already finished, we are going to show how to pressure can asparagus. And you notice that I've just done the tips. Well, the bottom parts I freeze dried, and that was the other tray that I didn't fill at the beginning of this video. And here's the reason why. These are the stem ends And there's a lot of flavor in these. There's also a lot of fiber. The closer you get to the white parts right up here, the more fiber there is. And so I'll show you in our third video how we deal with that fiber. So we have dehydrated, we have freeze-dried, we have pressure canned, and now let's take a look at what we can do with these two types of asparagus. So one of the first things that I did was take several of these freeze-dried stalks, and these are just very interesting. They're just as light as a feather. They would blow away in a wind, and if you get close you can listen as I break one. So they're very, very crispy, and actually they're pretty good to eat just dry like this. I enjoyed quite a few yesterday after they finished. They're crunchy like Cheetos. They just don't taste like Cheetos. They taste a lot better. And the difference in these, we got the biggest kick out of these. Look how skinny. Jim calls them shoestring asparagus because they just dehydrated down to little threads. And the difference is caused by the process that is used. In dehydrating, the water is pulled out and the cells all collapse. While in the freeze-drying process, they are in a vacuum chamber. The temperature is lowered to about 40 below, and then as the temperature comes up, the water in the asparagus sublimates, but it leaves the cell structure in place, and that's why they still have just about the same form. So one of the things that I did right off the top was I put quite a few of these in my blender, and I made asparagus powder. And in our third video, I'm going to show you what we do with this. And I put both a combination of these and the stem ends to make the powder. And that's important because I wanted the flavor, but I may not want the fiber, and at least all of the fiber, the rough fiber. And so we'll show you how to remove that. So I'm going to set these aside because right now what we want to do is see how these can reconstitute. And so for an hour, I have had in this bowl, which is the longest bowl the only bowl I could find that was long enough to accommodate. I have had this asparagus soaking in cool water. Now these have done okay. They turn quite limp, but they taste okay. We could get by with, now these won't taste anything like fresh, but not too far off. And we could get away with putting these in stir fry, or to just warm them up and put them on the plate as if they had just been soft cooked over the stove. So those aren't too bad at all. Just they go limp. These, on the other hand, are still, they're bendy now, as opposed to here where they just break. They're bendy, but they have not absorbed that much water except up here in the tips. These have become a little bit soft. So what would we use these for? Well, I'm also going to try to see if these will powder. I'm not sure that they will. If they do, I'll probably powder most of them. But I have also had some, put these on the tray here, to see how they do if we put them in soups or stews. And so these have been boiling on the stove for about 40 minutes. These look very much like boiled asparagus. These have done a much better job of rehydrating in that boiling water, simmering water. They're still not back up to the same size, but it shows that these could be used for soups and stews. And I would, of course, cut them in different size pieces if I were going to do that. But I'm going to just do a quick taste test now that these have kind of cooled. So I'm going to go for the tip end. Definite asparagus taste. I would want these buttered with salt and pepper, but these could pass as fresh cooked. Now these that have been soaking for an hour. No, they're still too viney. They're too thick. Very fibrous. I can't chomp down on them and turn them into paste like I could if they were fresh. Now, in terms of the ones that have been simmering for about 40 minutes, let's see how they are. They have lost almost all of their taste. So I would not be simmering those. I would just be soaking those to rehydrate them. Now, what about these? These now are much more flexible than these are, for sure. These would work in soups and stews. The taste is still there, not quite as strong, but they're very soft and tender. Even though they are flatter than normal, they're still good. Oh yes, this would be fine in soups and stews. So that's pretty much our competition between the dehydrated asparagus and the freeze-dried asparagus. The reason that I like to do both dehydrating and freeze-dryer competitions, so to speak, is so that people who don't have a freeze dryer can also see whether dehydration can work. And on most foods it works quite well, provided you know how to treat the food after it has been processed. So I would say that both are successful, and we would want to be very selective in how we would use these reconstituted asparagus spears. Video 3 is going to give us some examples. I will have some dishes all put together, and we'll see what we can do with this type of with asparagus that has been preserved in this way. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you at number 2 and then at number 3 for Asparagus Week.